Formula One on 5 Live.
Good afternoon from Hungary. We're at the Hungaroring ahead of round 11 of the Formula One World Championship, about 20 kilometres northeast of the city centre of Budapest. The sun is shining, there's a bit of wind around, and we're a few minutes away from second practice. Up in the commentary box, which overlooks the start-finish straight, is myself, Harry Benjamin, but our eyes and ears on the ground. Let's say good afternoon to Jenny Gao.
Good afternoon, Harry, and I'm sort of on the ground, but sort of in the sky, because I've come to a perch just outside the media centre, which gives me a wonderful view of the start-finish straight, all the pit lane, and probably, if I wave right now, you can see me. I don't know, maybe you can't, but I can see where your boxes are on the other side, so that's how high up I am. And the grandstands look relatively full. I'm not going to say they're absolutely full at the moment, but lots of people out there having a whale of a time. Lots of fans come to this racetrack, and the weather's perked up. I thought I needed a jacket. Turns out, Harry, I definitely didn't. It's baking hot in the sun.
It is, but as soon as you go into the shade, it starts to get a little bit chilly. That can certainly have an effect around this circuit, just over 4.3 kilometres in length, 14 turns, 8 to the right, 6 to the left, running clockwise and guiding you through it all. Alongside Jenny, alongside myself, up in the commentary box is British racing driver Alice Powell and the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. Good afternoon, Alice. Did you miss me earlier?
No. Did we miss him? No, everyone's shaking their head, so clearly not. I'm actually just trying to look out the commentary box window and see if I can... I reckon she said she's up in the sky. I think she's actually in Paddock Club.
So she's living at large, is she?
Yeah, I think that's where she is, really.
She failed to admit that.
She kept that a bit quiet, didn't she? Yeah. Can't blame her. It's nice up there.
It is. Now look,
I'm literally not, by the way. I'm out
Jenny,
here by the media centre. I haven't been offered a glass of champagne or anything like that.
Sounds
and
like
I've just had... No, I'm not complaining. I'm just putting the facts right. And I've just had a takeaway salad that I bought in from the local shop this morning. Living the glamorous life? Yes, I am, but not there.
I have to admit, I have been in Paddock Club with Abby Pulling, and it was very nice.
Well, so
you should... sorry,
outrageous.
Abby just invited me.
Right, enough about your glamorous lunches, Alice. And Jenny, I hope you pull through with your salad throughout the course of FP2, which is just going to get underway in about 2 minutes and 20 seconds time. FP1, obviously it's a chance to get up to speed, clear the dust off the track. A lot of anticipation, wasn't there? There's a few FP1 drivers taking part. But one of the bigger... I suppose stories of intrigue, Andrew, was around Aston Martin, and there is a lot hinging on this weekend for them. They're trying to really downplay the pressure, but they have brought a large upgrade, and it looked like on Lance Stroll's side of the garage, it wasn't the best start.
Well, it was a sort of tale with two sides, really, Harry, Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso ended the session 13th fastest, which is as far up the field as they've been by a mile all year. And that's why Adrian Newey, the managing technical partner and design guru, general genius, who leads that team, described them as promising results in the press conference between these two sessions. On the other side of the garage, though, it's a bit mysterious. Lance Stroll very obviously had a suspension failure, a rear suspension failure, which the team called... quite amusingly, I thought, a suspected suspension failure. I mean, we literally saw, Alice, didn't we? The wheel sort of cockeyed at the back.
We did.
And Newey basically admitted it was suspension failure. But what's weird about it is not that a car can have suspension failure. Obviously it can. It was how it happened, where it happened, the fact there was no obvious causes, the fact it looked a bit weird, the fact that they were happy to send Fernando Alonso out again without... Normally there will be a concern if one car fails. There's a concern about the other, and I'm hearing from Aston Martin that it's pretty unlikely that Stroll is going to go out in this session at all, and yet Alonso is. So I've tried, honestly, I've tried to get an answer as to what's going on.
Andrew, I think you should try harder.
And I've tried as hard as I can, and I haven't got an answer from Aston Martin. They're all being a bit mysterious, and they're all going, yes, Andrew, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It didn't look at like it wasn't a load-bearing part, and yes, and Adrian said this, and so I don't know what's going on Stroll's side of the garage, but it is in terms of the bigger picture, Aston Martin, and there is on the TV pictures, if anyone can see them, if they're listening to us alongside some other broadcasters TV feed. Lance Stroll's car on its stands in the garage without its wheels on, clearly not going anywhere. So looks like my information on that was right. But I can see out of the commentary box window here, Fernando Alonso's car looks like it's ready to go. And the upgrade, it does look like they've made a big step forward.
Well, 16 declared new parts from Aston Martin coming into this weekend, and they did alert us all that this was going to be the weekend where they bring essentially a B-spec car after admitting they might have gone the wrong way with their design. But only had one practice session. Let's see how they bed in, but certainly for Stroll, there'll be a lot of ground to cover. We are underway. Those who wish to do a sync-up, it's coming at you now. 59 minutes and 16, 15, 14, 13 seconds remain of free practice 2 as the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc slowly makes his way out of the pit lane, being followed by the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris now heads down the pit lane and emerges onto the track.
Yep, and do you know what? I'm actually really interested to see how Kimi Antonelli gets on in the session. You're probably thinking, well, why are you so excited to see that? But if you did join us for free practice 1, George Russell was 5th. I'm going to round it up, a second off Charles Leclerc. And Frédéric Resti was out in 7th. He was 1.4 off, but it did say on our timing page that he didn't set a lap time on the soft tyre. We did see him make a mistake, so whether he did or not, but that's quite a chunk off for George Russell, who needs a good weekend. So let's see if it was maybe just a Mercedes issue. Didn't have the car underneath him. Didn't look great from George Russell. It looked extremely stiff on the front end on the bumps going into turn 1. So let's see how Antonelli gets on.
Andrew?
Yeah, so curiouser and curiouser, Aston Martin. We've had official confirmation that, and I'm quoting, Lance will not participate in FP2. There has not been enough time to repair the damage from FP1. Now, the question is, what was damaged? Because I've just heard from somewhere else in Aston Martin that his suspension was not damaged. So we still don't know what happened. Clearly,
it looked like suspension failure, didn't it?
The left rear wheel, when it came to rest the car, the left rear wheel was at an angle, which would suggest suspension failure of some kind. But they're saying, or my source is saying, it wasn't damaged suspension. So even more mysterious. But I guess that would explain, well, it partially explains why they were happy to send Fernando Alonso out, because they weren't concerned about suspension. But if something failed on Stroll's car, you would still think, Alice, wouldn't you? Normal practice, there would be a concern about Alonso's car.
Yeah, and when we did see the shots of Aston Martin in the garage there, and we can just about see actually from our commentary box window, on Stroll's side, there's not a lot going on. There's not many people trying to fix the car or get it ready, at least make an attempt to maybe get it out for the final couple of minutes. So it was very odd. It's puzzling, really, because, like you said, Andrew, it did look, the wheel was just pointing at a strange angle. It was a strange place to lose it. Yeah, it's all very odd. So we'll have to wait and see till tomorrow what they come up with.
Well, the beauty of it is they'll have one more free practice session before we go qualifying tomorrow. Just hearing the sounds of Charles Leclerc, topped this morning's session, round the final corner. First lap time for him about to be recorded. Fastest of anybody through the middle sector to the start-finish line, and he goes top with a 1:20.103 ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, Bortoleto, Lawson, Gasly, Colapinto, Perez and Valtteri Bottas. Only 8 drivers to have set a lap time so far, but it is busy out on track. But yet to emerge, Lance Stroll, who will not, as we've been discussing, and Max Verstappen a little bit late to the party too. Let's check in though with Jenny.
Yes, I'm down here at the Aston Martin garage, and as you say rightly, not much work. There is some work going on Lance Stroll's car, but not much. But that's because they knew that he wouldn't get out at all in this session. And I asked about spare parts, because when you've got a new upgrade coming, they usually fit it on one car before the other. Now, they have to fit it on both cars at the same time. They've done that, which is admirable. But it does mean that some spare parts weren't ready for the cars. Now, I don't know, as you've said, what the failure was, what the problem was, but it was very much definitely on Lance's side of the garage and not on Fernando's side of the garage. And whether those parts have something to play with that, we don't know. I've tried finding out a little bit more, but they definitely don't have enough parts for, like, if they had a massive crash, they probably wouldn't have enough new parts to put like for like on the car.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a concern for them, isn't it? They just want to get through and have a fairly clean weekend and really stress test the parts, so that will be certainly an obstacle they will think about. Gasly Radio.
Something feels wrong on the car. It's extremely bad.
Okay, worse than P1 question?
Yes. Have a look. It just feels broken in turn 12. Something with the front is wrong.
So Gasly not happy with his Alpine on the front end, turning into that 90-degree right-hander at turn 12, not feeling comfortable. Lap times, though, have been coming in, starting to get a bit quicker out there. The Ferraris go to the top of the times. This time Hamilton by almost half a second clear of his teammate, a 1:19.6. The two Mercedes are out there now. George Russell just making his way through in the middle sector. And this is going to be, I mean, I feel like we say it every weekend now, Alice, but it's another big weekend for George Russell. But at some point as a driver, whether you count it as bad luck, good luck, that's the way the cookie crumbles. You just have to get up and go again.
Well, exactly, but we keep saying it time and time again. It was evident that he was hugely frustrated over the course of the weekend at Spa, as he just had a huge kick of oversteer at turn 13 and then into turn 14 as well. So that Mercedes looking very lively at the hands of George Russell at the moment, who's out on the medium tyre, goes up to 4th. But yeah, we touched on that there are plenty of races left to go. 11 races, including 2 sprint weekends, which is more points on the table, but 316 points available for the rest of the season. That sounds a lot, but you know, when there's potential, the calendar being mixed up again, maybe a couple of races added in, maybe a couple of races taken away, we don't really know. But that can change. Those points will get eaten up quite quickly, and the last thing that he wants is Antonelli getting another win, him finishing 4th. That gap will just start to increase and increase. So George gets on well at this circuit. He scored his first pole in Formula 1 back here in 2022, had good results in junior categories. He was 68 points behind at Monaco. He's now 50 points, but however, going to Spa, that was 25 points. So that just shows how it sort of ebbs and flows. But when I did happen to speak to his manager on the way out here, he said, yeah, we need to have a good weekend, because we don't want that gap getting any bigger.
But you also want to have a good weekend because this is the last race going into the summer break. So you want to feel like you've ended a little bit the first 50%, it's not quite that, of the season on a high in terms of that championship battle. Let's hear Russell first.
Yeah, it was dreadful. It's like the car is so out of balance.
Well, kind of confirms what you spotted there, Alex, on turn into the final corner. George Russell not finding the balance yet in that Mercedes. Meanwhile, one of the McLarens of Oscar Piastri decides to go straight on down at turn 11. Thankfully, there's plenty of runoff area. In fact, Max Verstappen had a really rough ride through the slow chicane in the middle sector, and Isaac Hadjar, thinking about going to the pit lane and then deciding against it, running out wide over the curbs, and then the rear kicking out. Charles Leclerc just a few moments ago locking up down into turn 1. In terms of that championship battle, let's just bring you up to speed with the standings. Kimi Antonelli does lead by 45 points. He's got 204 to his name. It's Lewis Hamilton, though, who sits second in the Drivers' Championship now. George Russell down to third, 50 points adrift of his teammate. Then it's Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, the top 6, with Max Verstappen down in 7th. Over in the Constructors' standings, Mercedes lead the way by 73 points ahead of McLaren. Then comes Red Bull, Alpine joint 5th and 6th, Racing Bulls on the same amount of points. Then it's that midfield scrap, Haas, Williams and Audi. Aston Martin with a solitary point mean they are 10th ahead of Formula One's latest newcomer to the scene, Cadillac, still yet to get off the mark. So that's how the championship's looking coming into this weekend. You're actually hearing the sounds of the British rookie Arvid Lindblad. He's on the hard tyre. Majority on the medium. Both Racing Bulls actually going out on the hard. Lando Norris on the medium. Fastest of anybody in that middle sector. And Andrea Stella alluding, perhaps after Belgium, that they might have had the pace to win in Spa had it not been for all the engine penalties.
I think didn't hear Stella say that. I did hear Norris say something like that. They were definitely more competitive in the race than they expected to be, and Norris's race could have been a lot better, by the way.
Well, they almost found twice on braking. What is going on?
Yeah, copy. I think we should drop a bit of aero balance. Let's know what you think.
No, but I keep blocking the rear.
That's Antonelli.
Sounds like both Mercedes drivers are struggling with balance at the moment.
Yeah, so he was basically saying, his engineer was saying, let's take a little bit of rear downforce off, or just adjust the balance of the car using the aerodynamics, which is the wings. And he was saying, well, no, I don't want to do that because I'm struggling on the rear. And actually, that was evident from George Russell too.
Yeah, so back to McLaren. Norris was on for a pretty good result from 13th on the grid with his race pace, but he got messed up by the safety car in Spa in the same way that Kimi Antonelli did, although Antonelli was able to recover to win. But I think overall they were encouraged by that, but it's been very circuit specific. Worth saying though that this race, McLaren have a relatively significant upgrade, the first of two on consecutive race weekends. There's another one due for seeing lots of drivers, by the way, with oversteer problems, and Norris is one of them as we ride on board with him through the final corner. They've got an upgrade on the car, another one coming in Zandvoort. McLaren are a bit out of sync with the upgrades, and they're sort of hoping that this dual package over these next two races is going to bring them. They don't expect it to completely close the gap to Mercedes at the front, although the gap to Mercedes at the front isn't very big sometimes, as we've just been discussing, but they expect it to bring them much closer.
Hamilton feeling a little bit happier than he was in FP1 as he crosses the line and goes fastest in that Ferrari. He is somewhat of a Budapest specialist, isn't he? A Hungary record 8 wins for the 7-time champion, 9 pole positions as well, more poles and wins than the rest of the grid combined, and a special place in his heart, one on debut here back in 2007.
Yeah, and I just want to say, while we're on, basically, okay, the biggest story of the weekend is what happens in the championship fight and who wins the race, but apart from that, the biggest story of the weekend is unquestionably Aston Martin. On that topic, Fernando Alonso continues to be encouraging in that car. He's 14th quickest at the moment. It's 2.8 seconds off the pace, but that's about 2 seconds closer to the pace than they have been all year.
How big a moment is this for the future of Fernando Alonso and his career in Formula One?
Huge. I mean, he's been playing it down a bit. He's been saying there's other factors involved. I'll carry on racing even if I stop Formula One. I'll have a relationship with Aston Martin going forward, even if I don't race in Formula One. And he said yesterday, for example, in comments that have been slightly misinterpreted across the internet, I have a contract, I'm not going anywhere. That didn't mean he's got a race contract with Aston Martin. It means he's got an ongoing contractual relationship with them, which does rather suggest that he's not going to go and drive somewhere else, because there are still rumours going around about Alpine, which of course is run by his manager, long-time manager Flavio Briatore. I think fundamentally Alonso is saying he still feels competitive, and he doesn't really want to stop, I think, in an ideal world. But there's two or three things preying on his mind. One is he doesn't really like this new generation of F1 cars, but then none of the drivers do, frankly. Just some of them are more open about it than others, and he's one of the more open ones, along with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. But perhaps more importantly than that, he doesn't want to have another season like the first half of this season. This is Fernando Alonso. He's one of the greatest drivers there's ever been. He doesn't, as Max Verstappen said yesterday in his news conference, Fernando shouldn't be 21st. He should be top 5 minimum. And Alonso knows that as well as anybody, obviously. So he wants to have a chink of light at the end of the tunnel, Harry. And the problem with Aston Martin is that over the last 3 years, the story has been upgrades come and they don't deliver the effect. Of course, lots has changed, new factory, new wind tunnel, new driver in the loop simulator, perhaps most importantly of all, Adrian Newey. So it was not only important on a competitive level that this upgrade worked, it's also important on a level of, is the team going in the right direction? Can they make progress? And I think if Fernando sees over this weekend with this upgrade, and by the way, Newey said there were more upgrades coming from Monza and Baku, and then the new Honda engine, which is another important point because the Honda is also lacking massively at the moment. If he can see that Aston Martin and Honda are both on a forward motion path, there's a much stronger chance he'll decide to stay around. And you're all going to laugh at me when I say this, but I, for one, I really want him to stay around because he's so much fun to have in the paddock. No,
look, we do tease you, Benson, but Fernando Alonso is an absolute treat to have on the Formula One grid. And the fact he turns 45 next week, doesn't he? Wednesday next week.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It is unbelievable when you actually strip it back. And even if you take Fernando Alonso out of the equation as bumping over the chicane is
line,
Alex Albon in the Williams. Max Verstappen had a moment there as well earlier on. But even if you take the Fernando Alonso equation out, no one wants to see a team lagging so far behind at the back of the grid. You want them in the fight, and that's what this first upgrade is about. It's not going to catapult them to the top. They're not suddenly going to be fighting for top fives and podiums. It's about racing and going racing with other teams, because right now they have simply just been making up the numbers. So let's see if there is an improvement. Right now, Fernando Alonso is 14th, number 14 for 14th, Fernando Alonso. It is Lewis Hamilton, quickest still by a tenth of a second, a 1:19.585, ahead of Charles Leclerc. What's happened to him? Down into turn one, another big lock-up on the front right, Alice.
I was watching the junior category, so prior to this session we had Formula 2 out, and then F3 was out just before F2. And the amount of cars locking up, going off, struggling for overall grip, particularly at turn 1 and the final corner, which is turn 14. Huge moments for so many of the drivers. And I know we had Abby pulling in for Free Practice 1 commentary, who raced here a couple of weeks ago. And of course, this new surface proving to be quite tricky. And she said that it was fairly difficult when she raced here as well. So it seems like this new tarmac, which is from turn 1 to turn 12. So that's pretty much majority of the track. Turn 12 is downhill right-hander, where we saw Max Verstappen get caught up with some traffic with Carlos Sainz in Free Practice 1. It's proving quite tricky, and there's Abby said there's a nasty bump on the way into turn 1, and a lot of people appear to be catching it.
Also, I wanted to say, I think the Hungaroring is a little bit underrated as a circuit. People think it's like it's just this little track, like Brands Hatch Indy or something in an amphitheatre.
A go-kart.
A go-kart train. It is that. But this section, Alice, maybe you could talk about it. The section from turn 8 to turn 11, there's a left, right section getting faster and faster as you go along. I think it's one of the best sections of track on the calendar.
It is. I find it also, it's a frustrating track, as we're watching Charles Leclerc, who's in that section right now, and you just have to be patient. You've got to have that car underneath you, and this is where we know Ferrari have such a good package in terms of, as I say that, he locks up and goes straight on at turn 12. But overall, a good chassis effectively, and that's what you need. You need a good aero package, good balance through there, because it is changing from left to right, and we saw Hadjar like understeering like a boat pretty much through there, and that just adds to the frustration. And also around here as well, during qualifying, you might see someone do an absolutely incredible first sector and then just have no tyres left at the final part, and then vice versa. So it'll be interesting to see who's basically got that tyre management and who maybe risks it all in the first sector and then who maybe saves it for the middle to last sector.
Did you have the Monaco without the walls chat in FP1? Have we seen that off yet?
I think we buried that one, Harry. You got it wrong once, I got it right, and Martin Brundle corrected you. He was the first one who said it, and you're still going on about it.
I still don't buy without the houses. Absolutely not.
You think this is Monaco but without the walls?
That's what it was known as.
No, it wasn't.
We're not going into
honestly,
it. We're not going into it.
Well, you just started it. I have to put this to bed. No, Harry started talking about Monaco without the walls, and he's not the only one, to be fair to him. Other people I've heard have said it. They're wrong. It started in 1986 with Martin Brundle being quoted in Nigel Roebuck's Autosport report, which I read at the time. Monaco without the houses is how Brundle described it in 1986. And we got Martin on air here. Was it last year or
It was a year ago.
Yeah, good old Jenny got him on air, and Martin confirmed that. And you're still not letting it go. You still won't accept that you're wrong.
No, it's not about accepting I'm wrong. It's just
I read it at the time. He said it at the time. You weren't even born at the time.
It's not about acknowledging who said it. It was without the houses. I just don't really get that. But anyway, 39 minutes and 49.
I am in the middle of YouTube, and I've asked the internet. I'm not going to say which search engine I have used, but it doesn't bring up as
but I think you need to Google it somewhere.
With Monaco, whatever the walls.
Well, it's a year ago, it's buried it, and I've successfully achieved my goal of getting Andrew Benson to have a rant about it. So, just under 40 minutes remaining. Let's run you through the order, shall we? Hamilton and Leclerc top the time still. Verstappen's up to third. Russell, Antonelli the top five. Then it's Piastri, Norris, Hulkenberg, Lawson and Lindblad round out the top 10. Ocon is 11th. Then comes Bortoletto, Gasly, Behrman and Alonso round out the top 15. Franco Colapinto back in the car in 16th ahead of Albon. Perez and Sainz 18th and 19th ahead of Bottas, with Isaac Hadjar down in 21st for Red Bull, and no Lance Stroll taking part in this session. And a bit of work going on, it looks, down at Red Bull with Isaac Hadjar's side of the garage. Jenny, what can you see?
I can see no work going on, if I'm going to be totally honest. They're just getting ready to send Isaac out. The tyre blankets are on. They'll take them off in a moment, and off he goes. And on the other side of the garage, I've just been watching Max Verstappen. He actually got out of the car. One of his mechanics was just faffing about inside the cockpit. He's now back in the car, and they're getting ready to send him out again as well. I wonder if they're on the soft tyres. I've got a feeling they might be. They're just about to take off the tyre blankets. Yes, a new set of soft tyres going on for Max Verstappen. His number one mechanic sends them out, gives the signal, and then on the other side of me, hopefully this works, they've got Isaac Hadjar, and they're just waiting again, another new set of soft tyres. There's the red banded tyres, and he squeals out of the garage and onto the pit lane.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was all quiet out on track a few moments ago, as it now starts to roar back into life. Cars making their way out of the pit lane. Lando Norris coming through turn 2 now. Nico Hulkenberg in the Audi, followed by Max Verstappen, as we are getting a look at Lando Norris just slinging his way through the uphill left-hander of turn 4. Curves his way round turn 5 and then rises up and over the crest, slows it down for the slow chicane, right, left, through 6 and 7, and then gears up for that tight and twisty final section. It sweeps you left, then it sweeps you back right through 9, and then another left-hand kink, flat out if you dare, through turn 11 before a short stretch down to a 90-degree right-hander of turn 12. Fernando Alonso is also back in the garage. Bit of work being done to the front end of his Aston Martin. He sits patiently awaiting to head out on track. Those that have gone out on track have indeed bolted on the soft tyre. So we shall see what they have when it comes to a qualifying simulation.
We're riding on board with Lando Norris now, who was 11th in free practice 1, so not what he wanted to be at all. He's actually just behind his teammate, and that just looked again uncomfortable for the McLaren going into turn 1. A bit of a bumpy entry, which again he was one of many drivers complaining about their front end and the ride of the car going into turn 1. Goes through turn 3, up the steep hill, pick a braking point, pick a turning in point, because it's blind. It's so narrow on the exit there, as he then finds his way into turn 5. The long right-hander spits you out, short run down to the chicane, where you've really got to be so aggressive with these curbs. And I think if I remember rightly, was it the Mercedes last year that just didn't have a good ride over the curves? It might have actually been the Red Bulls, sorry. So you've got to have nice ride over those curves. You can gain a lot of time there, and then he's through that real tricky section of 8, 9, 10 down into 12, where we saw several drivers, including Charles Leclerc, lock up on the first run. But it's fastest of anyone in the first and middle sector for Lando Norris. Max Verstappen set a decent first sector, but not quite enough to challenge Lando Norris overall, and we expect Norris to go to the top of the times, which he does with a 1:19.2. But Harry, I don't think that's going to be enough to really challenge the Ferraris when they come out on the soft tyre, because that's only 3.5 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton's time.
Yeah, I think Ferrari's certainly one to watch so far this weekend. We know they're good in those slow, medium speed corners. Oh, little twitch from Max Verstappen round the final corner, though. On the soft tyre, what's Verstappen got to offer for Red Bull? About a tenth shy, nearly 2/10 shy from Lando Norris. Next to cross the line will be Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls, a little further down in the pack. Lawson with the upgrade that Arvid Lindblad received last time out. Of course, a very different kind of track, this one. So will it have the same effect that Lindblad had on with that car here in Hungary?
Well, I asked Lindblad in Spa, what is the difference? Because apparently they were going to toss a coin for who would get the upgrade at Spa, at Silverstone, and the team said to both drivers, it's whoever qualifies in front of the other. So that was Lindblad at the British Grand Prix.
Do you agree with that, though?
Well, I think so.
Don't you think, surely, if I'm Liam Lawson, I'm feeling a bit aggrieved because I'm ahead in the Drivers' Championship?
Maybe, but...
And you based it off one qualifying.
I mean, they're not like they're fighting for anything in the championship. Where are they?
Well, I would actually beg to differ.
11th,
no, not for them, but for the team at least. And actually, when you're in a dogfight in the midfield, aren't you? Liam Lawson's fighting for his career pretty much every single race.
6-4 for Lawson. But anyway, when I asked Arvid, he did say he was very actually the upgrades. Lawson has got some of the upgrades. This was at Spa, so the car is not too different. I've just got one or two items that he hasn't, pretty much. So maybe he was just talking it down, as you would. Max Verstappen, though, on the radio, just not sitting the same car, so it's terrible. So basically, his back is falling to pieces.
That was at Silverstone, he had a similar problem? Or was it last weekend in Spa? Definitely one of the most recent races. Verstappen had a very similar thing to that. The seat wasn't quite right.
Antonelli on the softs.
Yeah,
I'm keen to see this.
Well, I am too, because Russell has just done his soft lap and he's 4/10 off Lando Norris, who's setting the pace at the moment from Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. So that upgraded McLaren is looking quite promising so far, although McLaren don't always convert their Friday form into Saturday.
Yellow flag out on track, though, as Antonelli flicks through the left-hander of 4, curves his way around 5, and it is an Alpine in the wall. It's Franco Colapinto who's found the wall, I think, at the penultimate corner. Red flag is out. That will scupper Antonelli's lap. He has to slow down. Colapinto has found the barrier, and he's taken a fair bit of damage to that rear wing. He says he's okay, but the rear wing is destroyed and half hanging off the blue and pink Alpine for the Argentine driver. And having not had the lap time, the lap running that he would have wanted to across Friday, missed out FP1. We'll see what happens. So it's coming through the left-hander. He's just come through 12 into 13.
It's just gonna snap on him. This is what we keep seeing. There we go. Snaps on him. Hard on the brakes, and unfortunately for him, off he goes. If you go slightly offline, it is quite dusty. There's such a fine line, and there's so much dust round here this weekend. And yeah, just a passenger, really.
Yeah, it's an accident that Carlos Sainz had very similarly a few years ago in that exact same spot, and it's the accident that Lewis Hamilton nearly had this morning, Alex, isn't it? When he was going through that corner, had a big snap of oversteer. As you say, Colapinto there, just like Hamilton this morning, just slightly offline on turn-in, and it's so dusty offline at the Hungaroring that you lose the car so quickly.
Paul Aron, actually, remember in the middle part of free practice 1, he had something. Okay, he didn't spin, but he had that huge snap going into 14, several snaps. Vesti is one of them, but I'm more referring to Aron because that is the car that he was in that's now in the barrier. So Colapinto missed out on free practice 1 because he had to step out for Paul Aron. So a corner that's catching plenty of drivers out this weekend. But Harry, I just want to quickly touch on the sector times. We saw Antonelli wasn't able to complete his lap, but his first sector was a 27.771. Norris fastest overall was a 27.750, and George Russell a 27.855. So he was slightly quicker. Let's go with sort of half a tenth, that 500ths quicker than his teammate, but still a few hundredths off that of Lando Norris.
Would have liked to have seen him complete it.
So would I, definitely.
Yeah, me too, because he was actually up, wasn't he, when he got to turn... Did I see that correctly? Was he up or slightly down?
I think I was trying to work out who was off at the final corner.
Yeah.
Well, we have Colapinto out of the car in his Alpine, and the tractor and the marshals now attending to it as the 23-year-old Argentine makes his way back to the paddock without his car, as we have said, missed out on FP1, handed it over to Alpine reserve Paul Aron, and now looks set to miss, pretty much half of this current practice 2 session, which hopefully will get going once the car is cleared. Red flag, but the clock continues to count down, so everybody pays the price. 29 minutes and 14, 13, 12 seconds remain. After those first few soft tyre runs, Lando Norris fastest ahead of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell third, and Charles Leclerc the top 5. Jenny.
Yes, I'm just down here. You might be able to hear the throaty calls of the Mercedes V8, the medical car, as Franco Colapinto goes past me on my right-hand side, and he's into the garage. He's taken his helmet off already, a ride back, which is nice. The car isn't coming back that quickly, but he goes straight up to his performance engineer and his driver engineer, and I just thought I knew who that was, and I did know who it was. It surprised me. And he's just looking at the traces and trying to work out exactly what went wrong. Was it a snap of oversteer? He's watching it back, because each individual team gets their own ability to watch their own footage back, and they put it into a little file, and out they can come when they want to. So Franco gets back, he sees the data traces, so hopefully it's understandable to him what went wrong, and the team can explain it as well.
Yeah, but for Colapinto, he's on a fairly decent run of form, back-to-back points, the only Alpine scorer in the last 2, and ahead of Gasly in both races. Bitter fight for P10 right at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix.
Your favourite kind of fight, Harry?
I just think that's where sometimes the real fight is, in that mid-scrap. That's why I like it so much, and it's a shame. It's just a kind of nothing crash for Colapinto, isn't it? He just loses it, and then the wall is just waiting for him, and the rest was written.
Are the only team not to bring upgrades this weekend. So lucky for him that they should have those spare parts, and it's not a new rear wing, or there's a crash structures damage there, rear wishbone underneath the floor. As a photographer pretty much goes underneath the car to take a photo of the Alpine, and actually the teams will have their own photographers and probably go, right, head down there now, if you're talking about your midfield fight, Harry.
That was the Racing Bulls photographer, was it?
Probably was. And take a photo of the underneath of that Alpine as Colapinto speaking to Flavio there in the garage, sort of saying, oh, I just lost the rear. Please don't get rid of me.
Well, he's clung on this long as Colapinto, so I think he has a lot of assets that he unlocks for Alpine, doesn't he? But still, the driver market very much in a bit of a flow state right now. There could be loads of movement. There could be not that much.
Yeah, the key date for Colapinto comes after the Dutch Grand Prix, where there's an option clause in his contract that they have to take up or not. You like that information, do you, Harry?
I like it, Andrew. I like it. How do you think? What do you think? Do you think?
Were you about to ask me how do I know that?
No, I know you'd never tell me. No, I don't know if Flavio told you over a coffee.
He's
probably
literally just made it up.
No, but
somebody told me over a coffee. I can tell you that much.
I'm sure they did. Would you take up the option?
Yes. I think he's done a good job.
He's done okay, hasn't he? He's fine. You know, they're out there in the middle of the field. He brings a load of money. He's not floating my boat, Harry. He's not the next Fernando Alonso, let's put it that way.
No, he's not. But
thank goodness.
When you look at where Alpine
Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc or George Russell or Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris or Kimi Antonelli.
No.
But they're not in the market for that kind of driver, are they?
No, he's capable, and let's remember, this is his first full season where he's actually had some pre-season testing with the team. He's played bit parts over the last 2 years, so I think a lot of people forget that. But ultimately, Flavio Briatore and Alpine do not want to see their drivers crashing in a practice session, so I'm sure he'll have to do a bit of grovelling on that front. But as you can hear, the engines have fired up once again, and we are back underway for free practice 2 with just over 25 minutes remaining. And let's see, it would be good to get that Kimi Antonelli lap in the books and where he stacks up after the first soft tyre runs. Fastest in that first sector, Lando Norris. He was fastest in the second sector as well. Lewis Hamilton, quickest in the final sector.
I hope they'll send Antonelli out for another run. He is out on the soft tyres, that's good. He will have had the edge taken off those tyres, Harry, because he'd done, what, over a third of a lap. So this won't be, assuming this is another qualifying simulation run, which it does look like he's warming up to at the moment, it won't be peak Antonelli potential, but it'll give us an idea.
Jenny?
Yes, by the way, Lewis Hamilton has just gone out, so is Charles Leclerc, both on slightly worn softs. You can't say they're new, but they hadn't done that many laps. And just an update, if you've just joined us, Lance Stroll not taking part in this session. His car looks very forlorn at the moment, with wires dangling down from the front left. What the suspension failure was, or if it was a suspension failure, is still very much a curious item to talk about, but the team insist it was a suspension failure. Suspected suspension failure, they don't know what caused it.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, Kimi Antonelli starting his flying lap on the soft tyre, breaks down to turn 1, a tight right-hander at the apex, then opens back up as you head now downhill towards turn 2. Eases off the throttle, turns it in, left hand down, and then it's a quick flick through the right-hander of 3. Now you're heading back uphill over a blind crest as the sun starts to head over the visor. He's 9 thousandths of a second down on Lando Norris's fastest sector time, but remember, these have had the edge taken off them. He now heads towards the slow chicane in the middle sector. Oh, and it all goes wrong, Alice.
Yeah, it did. Not a personal best either for him, but then just turned into that first part of the chicane, which is turn 6, and the rear of his Mercedes said no thank you, and got a snap oversteer and had to cut the chicane at 7. But so we're still not going to see what he can do on the soft tyre. That's frustrating, but we're going to see what Lindblad, hopefully, and Liam Lawson are doing, both setting personal bests in the first sector. Not a personal best for Lindblad in the middle sector, as we wait to see what Liam Lawson does, Harry, and a personal best for him, but he's around about 6/10 off the overall pace of Lando Norris.
Yeah, but for Racing Bulls, they've pretty consistently kind of been the in and around that top 10, 9th, 10th, just outside of it. Lindblad's going to cross the line now, goes 8th fastest, a second off of Lando Norris's pace, but of course they're not really competing with that. They're competing with each other in the midfield, as Lawson though finds some decent time up there in 7th, 8 tenths away, so a couple of tenths quicker than Lindblad. This is Lindblad's first visit to the Hungarian in Formula 1 machinery. Was here last year in Formula 2 machinery, managed to finish 6th in their feature race. Let's hear from Antonelli.
Yeah, but I keep looking the rear, man. It's too much.
So he's on about the brakes, locking the rears. He can go, there's plenty of diff settings, there's so many settings that he'll have the capabilities changing, including brake bias, which is the amount of bite on the front or rear brakes. That's usually a percentage number, but it could be downshifts as well. But it feels like to me that he's just saying that he just keeps locking the rears when he applies the brake, and then as he's bleeding off the brakes to turn in, because he's locked the rears, it's going to cause him some oversteer. Also not great for rear tyre temperature either, which, okay, it's fairly cool. It's 20, I say cool, compared to some of the British weather that we've been experiencing, 23 degrees at the moment, but later on in the weekend, tomorrow for qualifying, it's meant to be around about 27 degrees. And then for the race, it's going to be around about 32 with some possible showers. So not good news if you're struggling with locking rears. But, Harry, the Ferraris are out, and Charles Leclerc's fastest.
Dancing over the chicane was the Ferrari through 6 and 7. Now into the never-ending sweepers left. then right, then left again, through turn 10, swings back on himself, down the short stretch from 11 through to 12. Personal best in the middle sector. Lewis Hamilton has just gone fastest of anybody through the first sector. Charles Leclerc can't match his teammate so far. He'll cross the line first through the long looping left-hander of turn 13, runs out wide, then immediately brings the car back over to the left-hand side, opens up the final corner into the sunlight. The rear wing flies open, and it's fastest overall, a 1:18.877 by 3.5 tenths of a second ahead of Lando Norris. Piastri can't threaten the party. Lost a lot of time in that final sector, only 8th. But let's keep an eye on Lewis Hamilton here. Fastest of anybody through that first sector. Norris holds the middle sector best time. And Charles Leclerc, well, will he have the fastest final sector taken away from him? The two Ferraris playing nip and tuck so far this weekend. What's Hamilton got across the line? It's close. It's second and less than half a tenth of a second between the two Ferraris at this stage of the weekend.
That's close. Lewis Hamilton takes a look to the left-hand side of the TV screen as he goes down the straight to sort of see where he's ended up compared to his teammate, and it's close. That Ferrari's looking so good. Charles Leclerc was fastest by half a second compared to Max Verstappen in the first free practice session, and they've got a gap basically, Hamilton has, of 3 tenths, and then Leclerc 3.5 tenths to Lando Norris. So could see another Ferrari win this weekend.
I've got a funny feeling about that, you know.
It's just which driver is it going to be? Wouldn't we love to just see a battle between the pair of them when we were treated to that? China particular springs to mind, but interesting to see how this one unfolds for the remainder of the weekend, but it's so far looking good for them.
So historically, coming back to our chat about enjoying this circuit, maybe it's a bit underrated. Overtaking has not always been the best here. I think that's where the Monaco comparisons come in. But from what we've seen this year, sometimes with these new regulations, we've seen some unconventional areas for overtaking. Do you think we might see a very different Hungarian Grand Prix on Sunday than what we've been treated to in the past?
I would... Yeah, potentially with the deployment. It's not as big as we're expecting over the course of the weekend. That's evident from seeing the cars really on a mechanical limit through here, an aero limit. It's not as many long straights compared to Spa. There's heavy braking zones, which helps recharge the battery. Unlike, let's say, Silverstone, no real heavy braking zones. There's not as many partial throttle. So potentially we could, as Behrman just goes across the line into 13th place. But we've not actually... Starting on pole round here, you usually say, yeah, that's where you want to be. Everyone wants to be on pole, but we know this circuit's hard to overtake. But bizarrely, none of the last 5 Hungarian Grand Prix have been won from pole.
Yeah.
That's the longest current run at any racetrack in Formula 1, or currently on the Formula 1 calendar. So, yeah, we could see...
40% conversion rate.
Yeah, so strategy we know comes in a huge part, but it'd be interesting if we have got a Ferrari 1-2. I know we've still got this session to finish off and free practice tomorrow. Interesting to see how they swing it. Would they put all their eggs into the Lewis Hamilton basket, who's 45 points off Kimi Antonelli at the moment, or would they say, you know, Charles had a good run of form recently, been at Ferrari for a long time, but he's 78 points behind Kimi Antonelli?
It's an interesting
What would you
dynamic.
do, Harry?
What would I do? Oh, it's Gasly just has a little moment through the final corner. I don't want to answer that question. I don't know what I'd do. That's really hard because Charles Leclerc is the golden boy, but Lewis Hamilton is Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc, though, as you point out, what is he? He's 78 points adrift of Kimi Antonelli. Lewis Hamilton is 45. I mean, either are both big chunks.
And Ferrari, actually, in the constructors, only 73 points is a lot, but that's not... With the form that they could possibly have this weekend,
we've seen big swings.
Close. Yeah, we could see it. As Verstappen's come on the radio, I think he's got debris in his front wing, so his bad session continues. And there is actually debris on the circuit. I'm trying to work out where that is on track. Is that out of 11? Is it? And down the run down the hill.
I'll have to get a closer look at that and see where that is.
Like the pit straight, to be honest.
I thought it was the start-finish line. We'll see. Verstappen still out on track. Isaac Hadjar, his Red Bull teammate, in the pits. Jenny, I believe you've got an update there.
Yes, he's just about to be sent out, so they're just about to release him on slightly used tyres. It's taken a while though. They've had a lot of front end tweaking and trying to get that car in a position that's a little bit better for Isaac. And even the rear wing, they were looking at that as well. This is a flip-flop one. But I have to tell you, I just heard a mighty popping bang coming from the end of the pit lane, and it was a strange noise. So I don't know if that was something to do with the debris that's now on the track, but it would seem to correlate.
Well, we've just seen where the debris was. It's on the start-finish straight. It came off an as of yet unidentified car and indirectly to the path of Max Verstappen's front wing. And also just a few moments ago, Kimi Antonelli with a almighty lock-up down at turn 2. Antonelli's really struggling out there with braking and the performance of the car, and as we've been chatting, Lewis Hamilton has just extended his gap at the top of the timings by 1.5 tenths. He's actually now gone P1. He was behind Leclerc. Hamilton now to the top of the times. He's had another go then on the soft tyre. Leclerc back to the pit lane. Just under 14 minutes and 27, 26, 25, 24 seconds to go. It is Hamilton fastest from Leclerc, then Norris, Verstappen, Russell the top 5. Hadjar, as Jenny was saying, is on an outlap now. He's 6th ahead of Lawson. Piastri down in 8th, along with Hulkenberg in 9th for Audi, and Arvid Lindblad rounds out the top 10 ahead of the Audi of Bortoletto. Ocon's Haas is 12th. Antonelli now on the medium tyre down in 13th, and he's going round again. Gasly 14th. Behrman 15th, Albon Sainz 16th and 17th ahead of Bottas and Alonso. Alonso about 2.9 seconds off the pace, but hasn't been out in a while. Perez 20th ahead of Colapinto, who crashed out earlier, and we've not seen Lance Stroll in this session, and we won't see Lance Stroll in this session with suspected suspension failure from FP1. They haven't had time to fix the car.
No. So people are out. Who have we got out on the medium tyres? We've got Lando, Verstappen, George. We've got Lawson on the hard, Arvid on the hard tyre. Antonelli's out on a medium. I was just having a chuckle to myself there. You probably heard it in the over Harry talking. I've never seen anyone bring a bell and ringing that in the crowd on an F1 weekend.
Is it a Hungarian tradition?
I've got no idea. I feel like Andrew Benson would.
Well, it's one way to stand out, isn't it? From the crowd.
He's shaking his head. He does not. Yeah, it is. Bring a bell. There we go.
When you were driving around the circuits, could you spot sort of flags in the grandstands? Were you ever having a little look around and seeing what people were holding up?
Not really. No.
Just focusing on the corner. Surely on a cool down lap.
Yeah, on a cool, like particularly in the British Grand Prix. If you're a home driver, and I was very fortunate to race on a Formula 1 weekend on the British Grand Prix, and as a home driver, and I had a very good result there as well. It's very special, and you do take it in, and you get emotional and all of that. So there's no Hungarian drivers on the grid in Formula 1 at the moment.
Who was the last Hungarian Formula 1 driver?
Go on.
Answers on a postcard, please.
Here we go. Andrew puts the on-air button straight away.
It was Zoltz Baumgartner.
Wasn't really a Formula 1 driver in the traditional sense of the word, but yeah.
No, I didn't need to provide any context.
Wasn't Chanot Nissany as well at one point?
I'm not sure he raced under the Hungarian flag.
Right. Zoltz Baumgartner definitely is a name you can't forget.
No.
But a performance you very much could.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. We'll do a deep dive into Zoltz Baumgartner career, I'm sure, in a checkered flag extra at some point this year.
We've done Monaco but without the walls.
That's as deep a dive as we ever need to take into Zoltz Baumgartner, I can tell you.
I wonder if he's here this weekend. He might be doing the pole position award. Oh wait, no, that might be somebody else. Who knows? 11 minutes and 43, 42, 41 seconds remaining. I tell you what I want to find out. Oscar Piastri. What's going on with him in this session? He's down in 8th. He's on an outlap at the moment. Jenny, you got any more news on that?
Yeah, he's just fitted on a pair of the medium tyres, that's the yellow banded tyres, and gone out. They were working on the car a little bit. I don't think there's anything bizarre going on, but the way that the red flag came out for Colapinto's crash, and I think that's derailed a lot of teams' plans for what they had up their sleeves. They're just at McLaren getting ready to welcome one of their cars back in. I don't know which one it is, But I just saw Kimi Antonelli also come in, do a quick change of his tyres and go back out again. He dropped the throttle, that's not easy for me to say, is it? Dropped the throttle as he was leaving the pit box. So it was a slightly sticky release, actually, but he was out and going again soon enough.
Certainly was. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, both McLarens out there. Piastri just starting a lap now. And I suppose, Alice, I mean, how are you looking at Oscar's season so far? Do you think it feels a bit off colour? He's had some great results, but nothing that makes you go... I mean, it's really hard because the car's not there, but Lando looks like he's there more often, and it's not the follow-up season to nearly winning a world championship that you'd expect from Oscar Piastri.
I was working for a different broadcaster last weekend at Spa.
How dare you?
I know. So I was at Spa, and I was with Mr. Webber as Max Verstappen's complaining again of his rears locking up. So similar issue with it sounds like compared to Kimi Antonelli, but it sounded like that Oscar had a similar issue to what George Russell has been having at the past couple of Grand Prix. Same with Oscar the past couple of Grand Prix, with that deployment issue in the software. Mercedes didn't really know what was going on. Turns out it's the coding. I don't know whether that has now been sorted. We've been told that's been sorted on the George Russell camp, but it's not been really sorted. It's Lindblad Radio.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was different. It's been on the grass in practice.
Arvid Lindblad having a nice little scrap with the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg coming through the first couple of corners. Lovely bit of racing in practice, and Hülkenberg was making his way round the outside of Lindblad at turn 2. Lindblad could have been harsher, but as he says, only practice. It's an interesting point. I mean, Andrew, maybe bring you in on this if you're able, but just the lack of straight line speed that George Russell has been going on about for a fair few rounds now. Can we just confirm they've identified that there is a legitimate problem? They've managed to work it out. Where are we at with it?
Yeah, there was some. They told us this weekend that there was some code very deep in the engine settings that they didn't realise was there. Basically,
only on his car.
No, it was on both cars, but for some reason it was affecting him more than Antonelli. I don't know why. And they'll have fixed that now, including on the McLaren engines. But that wasn't the entirety of the pace deficit that Russell had to Antonelli in the last couple of races. It was about half of it, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So he's still got some pace to find on that front. But at least that issue itself should not arise again. The problem with these new engines this year is that the operations of them are so complicated. By the way, I just want to correct something that's out there. I keep seeing headlines with the word AI in it, as if the engines are controlled by AI. They are not controlled by AI. There is no AI in these engines. I got that from a Mercedes person yesterday. But it does sort of, the software does sort of learn a little bit as you go through the lap. But the fundamental issue is that it does weird things that the drivers aren't expecting, because, for example, if you use a little bit more throttle somewhere than the system was expecting you to do, then you've got to pay that back, basically, in somewhere else on the lap, because there's only a certain amount of energy that you have. So it's all about being predictable and smooth with your inputs. And that was one of the things that Mercedes thought was causing Russell's problem before they discovered this code. But there is still a pace differential between the two drivers, or at least there was in Spa.
Nothing predictable and smooth about Lando Norris, just cutting the corner, losing the rear end of his McLaren at the chicane. Jenny, I know you have a few thoughts on George Russell and Mercedes.
Yeah, well, it's actually the whole situation with Kimi Antonelli at the last race. Kimi had more pace, but because he put on the brake, he lifted off when the two Ferraris went round him and when Max Verstappen was there. So he lifted off, and at the point where he lifted off, it kind of resets the battery charge. So he was back up to full power. So he had all his battery to use because he lifted off, whereas George Russell didn't lift off. So a lot of that was just situational, but it helped Mercedes find out what was going on. And HPP, the branch of Mercedes which specialises in the engines, deep dive into that coding and, as you say, found that problem. But it's fascinating how they went about finding it, but it was the mistake and the situation that led them to the solution.
Yeah, Jenny, there were two things going on at Mercedes at Spa. One of them was what you were talking about. That was in the race. That was a separate issue where all the Mercedes engines had less power than they expected coming out of La Source. And you're absolutely right. In that scenario, Antonelli benefited going up the Kemmel Straight out of Eau Rouge because he'd lifted before Eau Rouge, because Max Verstappen was challenging him for the lead, basically. And because he'd lifted, that then reset the system and also allowed him to recharge a bit, so he had more deployment on the run up the Kemmel Straight on that particular lap. There was then a general issue on Russell's and Piastri's cars compared to Antonelli's and Norris's cars, and that's the thing that's been addressed by this code that I was referring to before, and that's also what was affecting him in Silverstone. And this is what I mean, it's really hard to get your head around these regulations because there's so much complexity, and the drivers they're not enjoying these new engines basically because they're energy starved all the time. But just to explain why it's so complicated sometimes to understand what's going on, yesterday in their news conferences, Max Verstappen said sometimes when you go through a corner faster, that costs you down the next straight. But Lando Norris was asked, can you still make a difference as a driver, which was the question that Max Verstappen was asked to prompt that answer, and he said yes, you can still make a difference in the corners as a driver and go faster. So it's like both things are obviously true, but the specific circumstances around them are slightly different, and so trying to drill down into exactly what set of circumstances applies to one driver in one situation and another driver in another situation is really, really hard. So we're all a bit confused in Formula 1 at the moment, Jenny, aren't we?
Just a tad, but sometimes it's quite enjoyable just to enjoy the confusion. It's getting quite tasty out on track for a practice session. Charles Leclerc threading the needle and making his way past one of the Mercedes as he then heads up towards the hill at turn 3. A few moments ago we had Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side going through turn 1. So that sets us up for Grand Prix Sunday. I'll take that in a heartbeat, please. Lovely bit of racing and free FP2.
It's woken me up a bit listening to all that coding chat. I'm awake now.
But you know what it's not, Alice? It's not AI. Remember that.
I never thought it was AI, to be honest with you. They were getting side by side, and Charles Leclerc was trying to go down the inside at the middle of turn 14, trying to find his way past
would have been
George Russell.
Yeah,
it was George Russell. And then he went to the back of him at turn 1. What's going on?
And then this is where he threads the needle and gets past the Racing Bulls of Lawson as well. He's got Russell to his inside at turn 2. And then eventually gets through, but that all felt a bit unnecessary. We're about to do it again. Oh no, we're not. George Russell bails out into the pits. Lewis Hamilton swings round the final corner.
I tell you what, yesterday all the drivers were saying there's going to be no overtaking in the race this weekend because I think it's full deployment here, and the overtake mode doesn't work like the DRS. And I'm like, okay, well if it's like that on Sunday, I'll take that every day of the week.
Maybe a bit of mixed conditions as well to spice things up. It could be one to tune in for. The Hungarian Grand Prix. It's going to be live on 5 Live as well. Lights out from 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon for 70 laps around the Hungarian. You're not going to want to miss that. Qualifying 2 also on 5 Live. We'll get Q1 started at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
Best part of free practice 2 though, Harry Benjamin and everyone else, is yet to come. The moment we've all been waiting for. I can't believe we're going to summer break and we're going to have to wait several weeks to have a moment like this again. It's time for this.
Long Run Corner with Andrew Benson.
You can go the distance, we'll find out in the long run. In the long run.
Well, if anyone's listening out there and also wondering how I've done these numbers while also banging on about Mercedes deployment, you're quite right to wonder that, because these numbers do have gaps in them, so it's very much even more than normal. I'm going to caveat this by saying it's a long way from definitive, and it's also hard to give you proper long runs because the drivers, as they often are on a track like this where the tyre choice is a bit flexible, they're on different tyres. But as far as I can tell you so far, Max Verstappen looks quicker than George Russell on the medium tyre by a bit. Kimi Antonelli, I've only got a couple of laps for him, but they're slightly quicker than Verstappen and definitely quicker than Russell on average. And then, unfortunately, Lando Norris in the McLaren, who's done a long run, quite a long run, he's on the soft tyre, so we can't really compare him with the Mercedes and Red Bull times. And I would say that he and Leclerc are looking, well, it's hard to tell because there's not enough data. So I'm going to reserve judgment on the soft tyre runs. So that wasn't much use, was it, frankly?
That was a bit disappointing, Andrew, I have to say.
I did my best.
Do you need some AI for that? Oh, that producer Joe told me to say that, and I've just got the.
He told me to say it as well, and I chickened out.
Sorry, Andrew.
I can't tell you the degrees of help and the magnitude of that help that I need is it can't be underestimated.
I've actually got something for the final stages of free practice. Well, there's 5 seconds left, but there's apparently we've got corner names. Harry, you like your corner names?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's never really corner names here, but there is now. Turn 1, PK.
Is Baumgartner corner?
No, turn 1 is PK. Turn 2, Hamilton. Turn 4, Mansell. Turn 11 and Lacey. 12, Schumacher. Turn 13 is Senna. And then turn 14, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but that has got a name. Go on, what?
Siz.
That's Ferenc Sis. He was
there we go.
Hungarian driver quite a long time ago, but very good.
And apparently Hamilton, Mansell and Alesi were invited to leave their handprints, which will be casted in concrete and permanently installed in the runoff area at the circuit.
Well, okay then.
Way to top off free practice too.
Feels a bit after the Lord Mayor's party to me. 41st edition of the Hungarian Grand Prix, and they decide to give the corners names. What's that about?
They've renovated the place in the last couple of years. Just slowly getting things up
and I'll tell you what, it's lovely. They've done a great job.
They have done. The Hungarian, they have. It's a real top tier facility to go with the greatness of the racetrack. Look. Checker flag is out. We'll come back and don't you worry, we'll keep reminding you of all the corner names throughout the weekend, I'm sure. That could be Alice's party trick. Clock has counted down to 0, and it is Ferrari 1 and 2. Less or about a tenth splitting. Lewis Hamilton, who tops the session, ahead of Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris third, Max Verstappen, George Russell the top 5, Hadjar sixth ahead of Liam Lawson, Oscar Piastri down in 8th, Hulkenberg up there for Audi in 9th, and Arvid Lindblad rounding out the top 10 for Racing Bulls. Bortoletto just missing out by a couple of tenths. Esteban Ocon in a better run today for Haas in 12th ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Bit off colour in FP2. Gasly behind him, Behrman the top 15, then Albon and Sainz. Williams having a bit of a dire day. Then Valtteri Bottas in 18th. Alonso ended up down in 19th, 2.9 seconds off the pace. Ahead, though, of Sergio Perez's Cadillac. And Franco Colapinto was 21st. We didn't see, though, all he had as about halfway through the session. He had a crash at the final corner. He's okay. Lance Stroll with suspension failure from FP1. They couldn't get the car ready in time, so he didn't take part. Right, well, that's the track action done and dusted for Friday. We've kick-started the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend. Jenny Gow, what are your takeaways from Friday's running?
Oh, good question. So Ferrari look as good as we thought they might do, despite them all saying, no, we don't really have a chance here. It's all Mercedes. But we've worked out, haven't we, sandbagging is key. Whoever says they have the least chance probably has the most chance of actually doing it. But let's see what happens tomorrow. And Aston Martin, a very mixed day for them today. They didn't get the running they wanted for Lance Stroll. He sat out this session after having a suspected suspension failure in FP1, but it's all a bit of a mystery as to what actually went on. And the team aren't being that helpful with telling us everything. So more digging needed, and that's where I'm about to head off to.
Well, the practice starts having as well on the start-finish line. Quite a long warm-up there from Oscar Piastri to get off the line, but the cars will make their way back round and eventually come into the pits. Alice, your takeaways from today's running?
Go Ferrari. They look like the ones to beat at the moment, and yeah, fair play to them. It's going to be a great battle.
And who's got work to do?
Wow, it's George Russell, Antonelli. I know we didn't really see Antonelli get a run on the soft tyre, but at the moment they're not where they want to be, are they?
No, they certainly aren't, in a bit of a truncated session with a red flag as well. But it's certainly been a strong start for Ferrari, topping Friday's running. Both drivers quick. Charles Leclerc fastest earlier on. Lewis Hamilton ending the day with a 1:18.729. Lando Norris in third for McLaren, but maybe looking a little slower on that long run pace. We'll see more unfold tomorrow ahead of final practice. We'll have one more hour's running on Saturday morning, and you can listen to that in full with us on 5 Sports Extra 2. We'll be on air from about 25 past 11 in the morning ahead of the green light coming on at 11:30. And then that all-important qualifying, the power hour. Will we see a Ferrari on pole, or can anyone topple them? It'll be Q1 and the green light for that on 5 Live from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My thanks to Jenny, my thanks to Andrew, my thanks to Alice and Abby Pulling from this morning. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.